time now to talk more about the crypto world. With so much volatility in the overall markets, it's easy to forget about the volatility that follows, naturally, all things crypto. But Bitcoin today, futures products down almost 2%. So now I'd like to kick it to New York, where we have Austin King, the CEO of Omni, standing by, of course, with Diane King Hall. Bring it to you guys here. We have a lot to discuss when it comes to Bitcoin and crypto.
Yeah, Austin King, no relation. Diane
that we know of.
That we know of.
Yeah.
Yet, exactly. We may have to do an Ancestry.com, not a 23andMe, though, to find out that information. All right, Ginny just talked about the volatility that we've been experiencing in the crypto sector. We'll talk about kind of the main two, the leader, Bitcoin and Ethereum, both under pressure today.
Yep.
We've seen some risk-off sentiment happen, especially when you consider the run-up that we saw last year in Bitcoin and widening adoption of crypto. I'm interested to hear your views on where we are. Does this make sense, and is this healthy?
Yeah. I think, healthy, sure, we'll go with that. I think structurally, though, things have never looked better for the crypto industry. I've been building in crypto for 8 years at this point, and for the first time ever, we're about to get regulatory clarity on some of the key things that are going to be able to unlock progress for this industry. And so what's happening really here has nothing to do with crypto as a specific asset class. It's more the fact that it's associated with just being risk on in general. And so Trump obviously is kicking off this trade war that's affecting all risk on assets. And so that's what's happening with crypto. Ironically, though, structurally things have never looked better for the industry at large.
Okay. Jenny?
Here to Chicago. Sorry not to have your head on a swivel here, but with things never having looked better, like you said, I mean, speak to some of the concerns and of the skeptics of crypto, because with all of the fans, enthusiasts, there's just as many that say this is somewhat of a propped up industry built on a bubble right now. Not to say that that's true, but I mean, what do you say to the skeptics of the entire even future of the space?
Yeah. And I think it's totally fair for people to have concerns or doubts about this technology. It's still pretty early in the journey of crypto. You know, in the decades to come, this is going to consume the global financial system. It's fundamentally a superior way to move money across the world today. And so that is what people should really keep in mind here. And for something concrete to think about stablecoin adoption throughout the world. Just in Argentina, for example, we have many people in Argentina fleeing the local fiat currency into stablecoins. And so, yes, there are silly things going on, like meme coins, for example, but these technologies are offering concrete, real utility to people across the world that fundamentally impacts like how they're living their lives. So there really is meat here, and you should just kind of zoom out and take a longer-term orientation on what's actually happening here, and not get distracted by kind of some of the shorter-term speculative type activities.
So let me ask you that, since you say there's real meat here, I consider myself in the agnostic camp when it comes to crypto, but I'm going to play the devil's advocate for the critic side. You talked about, yes, we've seen some widening adoption, and you mentioned Argentina, but when you think about it compared to traditional finance and the dollar, the strength of the dollar, the use case, there's still a stronger use case for the dollar. And especially for it as a reserve currency. What do you say to the critics who still say, this is really, like, they call it, space money. We don't even get this.
Yeah, it's a great question. And I think really what people need to understand throughout the world is that, sure, some people have pitched that Bitcoin is going to be an alternative to the reserve, to the US dollar as a reserve currency. You can take that stance, but a far more pragmatic stance here is that blockchain technology at large is actually a great way to export the US dollar throughout the rest of the world's financial system. And so we're seeing this today in the form of stablecoins. So you can take more ideological stances on like what should be a reserve currency, what should not. But if you kind of zoom into what's happening in the way that we can drive utility today, it's actually synergistic with the US dollar. Using these technologies, we're seeing people across the world, instead of relying on their local fiat currencies, they're using the US dollar in the form of stablecoins.
I want to ask you, where does Ethereum lie in all of this, especially from your point of view? It's under some pressure today. Jenny mentioned coming in. At my last check, it was down more than 2% for Ethereum. But even when you looked at the price action of Ethereum last year compared to Bitcoin, it didn't have the same trajectory, right? We saw that huge run up in Bitcoin. There was the expectation that we'd see similar price action for Ethereum. Why haven't we seen that yet?
Yeah, so Ethereum is going through some growing pains right now, and this is actually the main reason that we built Omni. So at a TLDR level, it's too difficult to use Ethereum. It's scaled by launching these subnetworks on top of itself, but navigating those subnetworks is really complex. It's almost like before accessing a website, if a user had to know, is this powered by Amazon Web Services or Google Cloud or Microsoft Azure? That's kind of where Ethereum is at today, and a lot of people are wondering if it's going to get through this stage in general. Personally, I'm bullish. I'm very excited about the future of Ethereum and the rest of the on-chain economy at large, but that's kind of what has happened over the past year with Ethereum, and it's the primary reason we built Omni.
One of the things I've heard from the crypto community is about the regulatory landscape and the desire, actually, for more regulatory clarity. Do you share that desire, and what are you seeking to hear more from the Trump administration?
Yeah, so I've built across the Ethereum ecosystem, the Bitcoin ecosystem, and the XRP ecosystem. So this is actually my second company. I sold my first to Ripple back in 2019. And so I think at large, regulatory clarity has been the #1 thing that has held back the growth of this industry. It's very useful technology. I talk with financial institutions all the time. It's very clear to them how utilizing this technology will lower their operational expenses. You don't have to be ideological about what this technology is offering at this point in time. It can just simply lower expenses. And so the thing that people need to keep in mind is that regulatory clarity has been needed, and I'm really excited about the fact that this administration is finally pushing that forward because the technology is ready to go. These transactions are nearly instantaneous and free at this point, and so there's a real opportunity for it not only to create a new financial system, but to really fundamentally improve the existing financial system. But we need regulatory clarity for that.
Okay, need some regulatory clarity. Austin, thank you.
Thank you so much.
I'll cede the floor to you, Jenny, over there in Chicago.
The one space where regulatory clarity I feel like might be welcome right now is I feel like we've been so caught up in so much of the volatility, and it's like, hey, that has actually been, regulatory clarity has been the greatest thing to happen to this space in quite some time. So we so appreciate it. Austin King, of course, the CEO of Omni, and Dan King Hall.